So before we get right into it, let's take a moment to take stock of what we've learned so far. Also, to show my growing contempt for him, I've decided to start referring to Joss Whedon by the name of his surrogate from God's Not Dead, which I'm pretty sure was Josh Wheaton, I confidently say without bothering to look it up.
Wheaton. Josh Wheaton.
So what have we learned so far? Well, Mr. Wheaton apparently has a thing for putting conventionally attractive women into compromising situations. Mr. Wheaton apparently has a thing for putting conventionally attractive women into compromising situations. Mr. Wheaton seems to have fantasies about having total control over said conventionally attractive women, and the statute of secrecy is a garbage law with no justifiable reason to exist. Wait, no. That's what I learned in Lily Simpson's 10-hour Harry Potter retrospective. Sorry, I'm still a little woozy from that whole thing. And yes, I know that came out 2 years ago, but I've been putting it off on account of how long it is. But since I'm now doing my own overly long retrospective on a work by a formerly beloved celebrity, it seemed like time. Especially since, much like with J.K. Rowling, the warning signs with Mr. Wheaton were always there. We just didn't want to see them. So with all that in mind, how is it looking for this series? Honestly, not good. I could probably end the video essay right here, but we're in this far, so I guess we might as well keep going. Let's get some of that good old sunk cost fallacy. This is Dollhouse Season 2. So Season 2 opens with Echo getting her extra 37 personalities wiped before getting fake married to a client. Well, this season isn't wasting any time getting to the weird stuff. Also, Doll November still remembers that she's a doll, and so she's taking revenge on the scientist guy by sending him rats. Well, I can't argue with that. Back with Echo, it turns out that the only reason the director allowed the wedding imprint in the first place is because she wanted Echo to spy on the client via secret secondary sub-imprints. For some reason. I think she suspects him of having something to do with Alpha? Maybe? This show is really confusing. Also, Echo seems to remember about being a doll during her engagement, and she starts randomly swapping between previous personality imprints. So her handler, seeing what's going on, steps in to try and salvage the situation, slapping her hard across the face in an attempt to make the assassin imprint the dominant one. And it works! Effective, if rude. Back in the dollhouse, Echo has an interesting conversation with her handler, in which she reveals that she can remember every single personality that she's ever been imprinted with.
Well, I know you don't remember it, but...
I remember everything. Sometimes I'm someone else, and then I come back, but I still feel them. All of them. I've been many people.
Well, that's concerning. Anyway, cut to Echo's next engagement, where she has a baby. Just go with it. Also, apparently she's not happy in her fake marriage, because their client really wanted to fulfill his ultimate fantasy of being a shitty husband and father.
I hand him the baby, and he acts like I've handed him a live grenade.
Okay? So Echo's fake husband is fake cheating on her.
Who is she? I knew you were having it.
And Echo overhears him talking on the phone about how he wants to get rid of her and the baby.
This is not working. I am calling it off. Get rid of her. I'll get rid of the baby.
So he paid for an extravagant fantasy of being a shitty, cheating, possibly abusive husband, and now he's changing his mind about wanting that? What the fuck is going on here? I know this show's narrative is all over the place, but this just seems extra all over the place. Meanwhile, cut over to this conversation between the director and former Doll November.
I have this irrational fear that if I say one wrong thing, men in suits are going to throw me in a black van and take me away.
That doesn't sound irrational at all. What's to say that her new reality isn't just another artificial construct that the director will take away at any moment? So back with Echo, she tries to flee from her insane fake husband, but he fake catches her. Wait, no. I mean, he actually catches her. Damn, it is so hard to keep track of what's fake and what's not. So Echo calls her friends to come pick her up. But uh-oh, the Dollhouse goons intercept her and brainwash her. Wait a minute, the Dollhouse are there to kidnap their own agent? What an odd way to end an engagement. Was that part of the original agreed-upon fantasy? That this guy just really wanted to be a shitty husband and father, a serial cheater, possibly abusive, and he really wanted his fake wife to be kidnapped by government-esque goons? He might need to see someone about that. That is not okay. That's not okay. He should see someone about that. And now the fake husband is in the director's office wanting a refund because his fake wife kidnapped his baby, which she thought was her baby because he paid to have her programmed to believe that his baby was her baby. And what the fuck is going on here? Okay, so there's a lot of blame to go around here. Fake husband is the idiot who requested this bullshit fantasy, but the Dollhouse is more than just complicit here. They're the ones empowering rich idiots to actually play out these fantasies, and no one involved in this entire situation thought that maybe something might go wrong in a situation where literally nothing could go right. So anyway, Echo goes to the police for protection, but of course they just turn her over to her abusive fake husband again. Because at the very least, this show understands the concept of ACAB. Or maybe the cops were undercover Dollhouse agents, it's a little unclear. But honestly, it hardly matters, the result would have been the same either way. So Echo gets her memory wiped after the engagement, but this time it doesn't take. So she knocks out the scientist guy. Also, we get Doll November's backstory. Apparently, she was recruited by the director herself after her daughter died, and the director offered her a free memory wipe in exchange for 5 years of service. Well, who could resist an offer like that?
I had a daughter. She died, and my world fell apart. I met Adele.
She came to you.
I go to sleep for 5 years. I wake up without pain.
Yep, they're continuing to prey on the desperate and vulnerable. Good times, good times. Also, notice that the director came to her. She didn't seek out the director. The director preys on miserable people in vulnerable situations. Also, note that the director came to her. She didn't seek out the director. The director preys on people in vulnerable situations, after apparently spying on them to see that they're in said vulnerable situations. This just gets worse and worse. And so Echo is off to kidnap her fake husband's baby. Or, as she believes, to rescue her baby from her abusive ex.
You took away my baby.
Who could have possibly seen that coming? Not the worthless director. So fake husband tells Echo that she's not really the baby's mother.
This is my baby.
I know that you think that he is, but you aren't his mother.
That's a lie!
Which, yes, technically that's true. We, the audience, know that she was implanted with false memories and that she's not actually the baby's mother. But, given that she was implanted with those false memories, she fully believes that she is this baby's mother. Hell, it's not even a belief. To her, it's a foundational and unshakable fact.
To be clear, nobody took anybody's baby.
She really believed someone took her child, heart and soul.
It wasn't real.
But it was for her.
And of course, this triggers Echo into having an existential crisis. Or, since Echo doesn't technically exist, a non-existential crisis. Regardless, a crisis. She's having a crisis. Some unspecified type of crisis, hitherto unknown to the world. So anyway, the next episode starts right in with that whole Criminal Minds living doll thing. Oh, good. That's good. Yikes. Maybe the dollhouse should not fulfill this guy's fantasy. So anyway, the guy kills one of the dolls who was trying to escape, and then, while he's out trying to find a replacement, he gets hit by a car. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Meanwhile, back at the dollhouse, FBI guy turned handler goes to find Echo, looking in the shower, and is embarrassed to find her naked. What were you expecting? It's a little late to pretend not to be a creep now. And it's here that we find out that the dollhouse, for some reason, is in fact taking care of the doll serial killer. For some reason. I know I said for some reason twice, but it bears repeating. What? Isn't that a little outside their jurisdiction? But never mind about that. Echo is off to her next engagement, sleeping with her fake college professor. And suddenly, FBI handler has a problem with this.
So she's the sex fantasy for some egghead academic who can't get one of his real students to sleep with him.
I mean, he's not wrong. This is all kinds of messed up, but where was this energy before? I know this guy is trying to take down the dollhouse from the inside, but in the meantime, he's still working for them, so he's still complicit in all of their, shenanigans. I don't know what the right play would be in a situation like this, but somehow I don't think just kind of sitting by and letting it happen, but being all butthurt about it, that doesn't seem like it. I would think something more along the lines of kill the director and see what happens from there. So cut to Echo in class, where it turns out that she's really bad at the subject. As in, the professor specifically had her programmed to be bad at the subject so that she would have to sleep with him to get a good grade. And this is the kind of fantasy that they are fulfilling here. Ugh! And the dollhouse had no problems fulfilling this fantasy. I mean, at least Echo isn't actually underage like she's pretending to be, but this is still unbelievably fucked up. Also, remember that Russian FBI agent who was investigating them last season, and so they kidnapped him, wiped his memory, and turned him into Doll Victor? Yeah, remember that whole thing? Well, now they've implanted him with the memory of the comatose doll serial killer and are interrogating him. For some reason. I'm gonna be saying for some reason a lot in this video. Why are they doing this? Well, two reasons. One, to try and find the location of the other victims so they can potentially rescue them. And two, I'm thinking revenge, because they're annoyed that the Russian agent tried to take them down, so now they can fuck with his new doll form. Two birds, one stone. But then, out of nowhere, it turns out that putting a comatose serial killer into a new body is a bad idea. Who'd have thought? I mean, this was literally the plot of Chucky. Child's Play, rather. So they could have watched that and figured out it was a bad idea. So the serial killer escapes the dollhouse in his new body and returns to his lair. But fortunately at this point, his living dolls are waking up as the drugs in their system are wearing off. So at least they'll have a fighting chance. Back at the dollhouse, the director tells the scientist guy to do a remote wipe on the Russian agent.
You need to free Victor of him.
Love to. He's not here.
I do know this.
But, of course, the scientist guy just tells her that it can't be done.
A remote wipe. It can't be done.
It can be done. Alpha did it with Echo.
What do you mean it can't be done? You've done it like 5 times already! Then there's some more stuff with Echo's engagement, but honestly, the less said about that, the better. So yeah, about that remote wipe, the one that can't possibly ever be done except for all those times that it can totally be done with no problem, yeah, it doesn't work this time. Because the guy is listening to disco music? What, makes sense to me. Also, Echo manages to overcome her programming and stabs her creepy client in the neck. Alright, way to go, Echo! She even took the time to call the creepy client a whore, writing it in his own blood. So that's cool, if a little confusing. He's not a whore, he's a John. That's the bad thing. Being a whore is a perfectly respectable profession. Although I don't think that's the preferred term. So Echo somehow manages to find her way to the serial killer's lair in order to free the dolls, and then she kills one of them. Wait, what?! Okay, so apparently that remote wipe that didn't work somehow shoved the serial killer imprint into Echo. Somehow. What?! So what? Echo doesn't even get credit for killing the creepy guy? Boo! Fake feminism, boo! Though I guess that does explain the whore thing. I'm sure Echo knows the preferred terminology. Echo manages to overcome the serial killer personality, at least momentarily, but she can fight him fighting to become the dominant personality once again. And so, Echo tells the other dolls around her that they need to kill her in order to kill him.
You have to kill him.
What do you mean?
We have to kill her.
Yes.
Which is pretty damn noble of her. But of course the Dollhouse show up just in time to save her. At least physically. Mentally, she's fucked.
Echo, are you okay?
I don't think so.
Well, at least she knows that. Jesus, this is fucked up. Also, it should be noted that the serial killer was compared to Norman Bates in his whole mommy issues thing and in how he was attempting to recreate his dead mother, whom he hated. And then, at the end of the episode, when he's possessing Echo, he's literally wearing a woman as a skin suit. You know, like Buffalo Bill. So if you've seen my Psycho of the Lambs video essay, well, this episode really should have made an appearance in that. I mean, this guy might not technically be a trans serial killer, but, you know, honorable mention. Or possibly dishonorable mention. Anyway, on to the next episode. Meanwhile, Doll Sierra is on an engagement, and this creepy dude who she's not into is trying to seduce her. Wait, so this is his fantasy, and he specifically wanted her to not be into him when he tried to seduce her? What the fuck? I mean, it might be a little late in this series to bring this up, but what the fuck? Okay, no, apparently that was a flashback to Sierra's pre-doll days, and now this same creepy guy who harassed her before has paid to have her programmed as his ideal girlfriend. That's not better. That might be worse. And that's hard to do. Also note the irony of this line.
Why don't you let us build the woman you want, the perfect woman? We have all types available.
I don't want a doll, Hardy. I want her.
Get it? Get the irony? He didn't want a doll, and yet he got a doll anyway? Because she is a doll now, and he programmed her to be... See? It's clever, and therefore brilliant. Jesus Christ, Joss Whedon has issues. Get it? Get the irony? He didn't want a doll, and yet he still got a doll? Isn't it brilliant, and therefore clever? Isn't it ironic, and therefore clever?
I'm just trying to make a good show that's brilliant and unprecedented.
It's confusing, which means the show is daring and smart.
It's confusing, it's overwritten, and it's poorly lit.
The darkness is a metaphor for darkness.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I can't find a source on this to verify it, but this jackass character from BoJack Horseman, I feel is a caricature of Joss Whedon. Just a suspicion, but the vibes sure seem right.
Let me tell you how this is going to be. I am the show creator, and if I want your character to get naked, he gets naked. Sign a contract, and that means I am your god. You will please your god. And if I don't see your ass on set, then I will see your ass in court. Do you understand?
Also, apparently this guy that we're just now hearing about is a longtime repeat client of Sierra's, which goes against the whole no repeat clients thing that the Dollhouse was making such a big deal about last season. Such a big deal that I didn't actually mention it, but trust me, it was in there. At least this show isn't inconsistent. And if this was such a big deal, why are we just now hearing about this? Also this.
This is a brain. Normal, boring brain, like your brain. This is a brain on drugs.
Did they just stop the episode to do an out-of-nowhere drug PSA?
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about what doing drugs does? Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
What the fuck? Especially considering the source. What? Say no to drugs. Say yes to weird, freaky pimps? What? So anyway, the scientist guy does some digging into Sierra's repeat customer's background, and surprise, surprise, it turns out that he raped her in her pre-doll days. And let's be honest here, he is continuing to rape her as a doll.
What's the word on this repeat client Sierra's been seeing?
How did this get by DeWitt?
Because she's bad at her job. Plus, she kind of did the same thing to Doll Victor last season. And no, they haven't forgotten that. They bring it up. So Director Lady is pissed off to have been made complicit in something so vile, which...
You have made me an accomplice in something vile, Dr. Kennard. And it ends now.
It's a little late to play that card. And it's a little hypocritical given the whole Victor thing. So we learn, a little late, that apparently everyone employed by the Dollhouse has compromised morals. Which, yeah, we kind of knew that already. But the reason why this is coming up now is because apparently the scientist guy is the one exception to that rule. In the most ass-backwards way possible.
Is that everyone here was chosen because their morals have been compromised in some way. Everyone. Except you. You, Topher, were chosen because you have no morals.
So his morals weren't compromised because they never existed in the first place. What?! And yet, as we'll later see here, he's the only one here who has any morals, so... what was up with that line? How did this get a second season? Also this.
Do you know where you are?
I'm in hell.
You're in Los Angeles. I can understand the mix-up.
Haha, nice angel callback. We get it. You did that one too.
I must be in hell. No, LA, but a lot of people make that mistake.
The director lady orders the scientist guy to imprint Sierra with her rapist's preferred program and send her in for a permanent engagement, just casually breaching her 5-year contract. But the scientist guy finally grows a pair of balls to stand up to her, defies her order, and secretly imprints Sierra with her own original memories, sending her back in fully aware of what's going on, so that she can kill him! Well, props to the scientist guy. For someone who supposedly has no morals, he's the only one here who has morals. So, what the fuck was up with that line? I guess the director is an unreliable narrator. I mean, she's not exactly a narrator, but fuck it, I don't know what the fucking term is. She's unreliable! That's the term I was looking for. This show is making my brain dumb! Okay, so apparently I'm an idiot and completely missed this somehow. I guess I was a little distracted by the, Your Brain on Drugs PSA and the Shameless Angel reference. But it turns out that, before, when I said that for some reason the Dollhouse accepted Sierra despite knowing her backstory, yeah, apparently they didn't actually know her backstory because they accepted her because she was having a schizophrenic episode despite the fact that she was on medication for it. Or, as they now find out, she's having a schizophrenic episode because she's on medication, because her rapist put her on drugs to make her crazy and thus make her a prime candidate for the Dollhouse to take to fix. So that is horrifying on many, many levels, and yeah, the director still bad at her job for not seeing this, and yeah, that whole "you've made me complicit in something vile" thing, yeah, you've been complicit, it's a little late to play that card now, so yeah. This does not make things better for the Dollhouse, it only makes them worse. And yeah, the director is bad at her job, the scientist guy is bad at his job, and I missed this, so therefore I am bad at my job as well. But, I feel like that's less of a big deal. But yeah, the whole drug PSA thing, yeah, that was the scientist guy describing, Sierra being drugged to mimic the symptoms of schizophrenia. And the Angel rip-off line where Sierra thinks she's in hell is when she is in the asylum being treated for schizophrenia symptoms that have been induced by drugs given to her by her rapist. So, yikes. Wow. So I guess this is as good a time as any to bring it back to that idea that I had at the start, where it's like, surely these are villain protagonists, and we are supposed to know that they are evil. So, by the end of this season, they will be getting their comeuppance, and the Dollhouse will be shutting down, and they're going to end up in federal prison. Something along those lines. Am I close? Let's come back to this, but spoiler alert, no, not even close. Also, going back to the scientist guy, yeah, he did the best he could with a shitty situation, but on the meta level, can we stop it with the rape, revenge, power fantasies? This is the second time this has happened just with Sierra, not counting the time that it happened with Echo. This is so clearly what Joss Whedon thinks feminism is. Not women having equal rights. No, women being second-class citizens with no rights who are taken advantage of in every way imaginable, but who at least get revenge for it. This is no different from what Rush Limbaugh or any other conservative talking head views feminism as. The only difference is that Joss Whedon claims to be in favor of it. Until someone tries to get revenge against him.
Yeah, you're the lady who's gonna make my show less sexist, right?
Well, I'll see what I can do.
Here's what I need. Sit in my office, don't chew too loud, and collect your paycheck. Then, when the show comes out, people will see your name in the credits and say, huh, a lady worked on the show. Guess it's not sexist.
I can contribute more than that.
Not necessary.
Which kind of makes him worse. At least Rush Limbaugh makes no pretense about being a shitty, rest in piss person. But in the context of the show, yeah, he did the best he could with a shitty situation. So, still, props to him. No props for Joss Whedon. No props. Also, it's worth noting at this point that Sierra is aware of being in love with Victor, despite not remembering any of the times that they actually shared together. So, perhaps that's another reason that the director lady wanted her out of the way. Because, you know, budding romances between dolls and doll states leading to, you know, alpha, death, dismemberment, mayhem, yada yada. So in the end, Scientist Guy does Sierra one last favor and wipes her memory of the whole incident. Because apparently she can't live with the memory of having killed her rapist. It's the one thing that she's wanted all her life, to kill him and get revenge, but she can't live with it. Yeah, actually, that's the one part of this whole mess that actually rings true. Anyway, the next episode opens with Millie, aka former Doll November, giving a public statement about her involvement in the Dollhouse.
3 years of my life are gone, stolen by the Dollhouse. And there are still people being held captive by the Dollhouse. They don't even know they need help. So that means we have to help them.
Which, of course, has the director's boss all riled up. But I can't help but think that this was all part of the plan, for some reason. I'm not sure how or why this is supposed to help, but these people are crazy, and it's not outside the realm of possibility that they would do something crazy. They've done it many times before. And wouldn't you know it, we immediately start to get an inkling of what this crazy plan might be with this incredibly subtle line.
I couldn't let her get away. She's perfect. It's like they made her just for me.
Ah, so they planted a doll as a sleeper agent next to the conspiracy theorist who's been chasing them.
Cindy Perrin is a doll.
In order to compromise him and make him look not credible as a witness. Fantastic. Also, I say conspiracy theorist for want of a better term, but he's not a conspiracy theorist. This conspiracy is real. Also this.
What is it?
I call it a disruptor. That's not too Star Trek, is it? TOS?
TNG, you idiots! I mean, okay, I don't know that the disruptor model actually changed that much between TOS and TNG, but the TNG ones definitely look like this, so anyway, said Star Trek disruptor will apparently disrupt any doll within a 50-foot radius, including Millie, because no one ever really leaves the dollhouse. Once you have had that code put in your head, you are always and forever subject to remote wipes. So even if they ever get around to actually releasing you at the end of your 5-year contract, which keep in mind, they won't. They sent Sierra off on a permanent engagement, or tried to. They've sent people to the attic. You're not getting out of your contract, but even if they do, and even if they put your own original memories back in your head, which, keep in mind, you would have no way of knowing if they altered it. How would you? But even if they put your own original memories back, they can still take it away at any moment with the push of a button. With one of those impossible remote wipes that never ever work except that they totally do. Millie might technically have her own original personality back in her, but it is still an imprint. And I am not convinced that the doll didn't leave some residual programming in on top of it, or underneath it, or whatever the technobabble is.
Using multimodal reflection sorting.
The Dollhouse sent Echo in undercover as a call girl to spy on Conspiracy Guy. But he immediately clocks her as a doll. So, I've got to hand it to him. He knows his stuff. Also, once he learns that she is in fact a doll, programmed to be his ideal pair, he doesn't sleep with her.
You're a doll, Ross. It never to risk hiring a call girl.
So we can assume that he is in fact trying to engage in ethical sex work here. So that's nice to see. I mean, apparently he's married and still trying to hire a call girl, but maybe his wife is on board with that. Although, if his wife really is a doll like they suspect, then her consent would be dubious, but... Okay, this is getting confusing again, and regardless of any of that, he's still more moral than any of our protagonists, so let's give him a pass. So anyway, Scientist Guy uses the aforementioned Star Trek disruptor to knock out Conspiracy Guy's wife, whom they are convinced is a doll. But, twist ending, it actually doesn't knock her out.
You're not a doll.
It knocks him out, because in fact it was Conspiracy Guy himself who was the programmed doll. Wait, what? What the hell is going on here? So the Dollhouse programmed one of their own dolls to investigate themselves and expose them to the world. This makes no sense! And not even the normal amount of not making any sense. This extra makes no sense. So Conspiracy Guy starts having flashbacks to previous imprints that he's had in his head, but twist ending, it turns out that he's actually a doll of himself.
I am not a doll.
No, you're not, strictly speaking. But the man you are today is part manufactured.
What? What does that even mean? Have we just abandoned all pretense of a narrative here?
He's more machine now than man.
Yeah, sure, that's as good an explanation as any. Please don't sue me, Disney, over that 3-second clip. Also this.
You did this to him.
No, but I can help him.
Yeah, you didn't push the button that did that to him. You just hired the guy who made the button and ordered him to push it. Do you hear yourself? So it turns out that the Senator Doll's wife is in fact his handler. Okay, this is getting way too fucking complicated. Also, apparently the Conspiracy Guy is a senator. I have no memory of that. I'm trying here. I am trying. So it turns out that Senator Doll wife handler is in fact an agent from another dollhouse, not the dollhouse that we've been following, and as Echo so eloquently puts it,
I think her bad guys are better than my bad guys.
Okay, so our protagonists here are clearly irredeemably bad, and so the only way to have any semblance at a redemption arc for any of them is to introduce a second set of bad guys who are, in some indefinable way, even worse. Cool. Very cool. I mean, I guess it does at least explain why the Dollhouse would commission a doll to take down the Dollhouse if it was a rival Dollhouse and they wanted to get their competition out of the way. But even so, this seems like it would create a Reagan-esque situation of a tidal wave sinks all the ships, or whatever the fuck his idea was. So meanwhile, at the rival dollhouse, the rival director gives her subordinates a speech about some pseudo-philosophical bullshit, and... Wait, is that a statue of Romulus and Remus? Why? I mean, I get that it's symbolic or some such, but what the fuck is it symbolic of? You can't just have random symbolism that doesn't mean anything. I mean, I guess you can, and you do, so what am I even talking about? Carry on. Also this.
The hearing starts in 10 hours. If Perrin's not there, the plan is blown and we're demoted to being dead.
Well, that's quite the demotion. So apparently the rival dollhouse have kidnapped Echo, and apparently also the rival scientist girl is Echo's former girlfriend. Awkward. Also, you can tell that this dollhouse is evil because they don't have a nice, welcoming, comfy chair of brainwashing. They have an evil, sinister hospital bed of brainwashing. Is that worse? I feel like the brainwashing was the problematic part. And so Echo's former girlfriend proceeds to torture Echo. Lovely. So the director goes to the rival dollhouse to rescue Echo, bringing the scientist guy along with her to handle the, science. Let's call it science.
It's like magic, but it's science.
But meanwhile, back at the actual dollhouse, the scientist guy is continuing to hold down the fort. Because apparently, before leaving with the director, he inserted a backup copy of his own brain into doll Victor's body, so that he could be in two places at once. Oh, of course, that just makes perfect sense. Was that always an option?
This conversation is becoming vague.
This whole show is becoming vague! So Scientist Guy tries his Star Trek disruptor on Echo's ex-girlfriend on the off chance that maybe she is herself a programmed doll, but she isn't, so it doesn't work. And then Echo's ex-girlfriend calls Scientist Guy's clone in Victor's body at the Prime Dollhouse to fill him in on what's happening. Do you follow any of that? I sure don't. Meanwhile, Echo and the Senator doll, who you had probably forgotten about, I sure had, have actually managed to free themselves and even removed the tracking chips from the backs of their necks. So basically the scientist guy was so busy making small talk to himself that he was completely ineffective and the director's rescue mission was pointless. Entirely pointless. Well, that was a good use of time. This episode has been entirely pointless. Damn, that's an old gag. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing at this point. I have no idea what's going on here. So anyway, the scientist guy teams up with Echo's ex-girlfriend, despite knowing that she's the one who tried to kill Echo. And they set their systems to do a remote wipe on both Echo and the Senator doll, whom I had managed to forget about yet again. So, for those of you keeping track at home, the number of times that they have done a remote wipe on someone, despite saying that it's impossible, is a lot. But then, surprise, surprise, Echo's ex-girlfriend betrays the scientist guy by, instead of remote wiping the Senator doll, instead uploads a new program into the Senator doll to make him try to kill Echo. Which is only surprising because what the hell just happened? I did not follow that. How did they remotely upload a new program? That's something they have only ever done by accident, and I did not think that they would be able to replicate it in an on-purpose way. But whatever, let's move on. But yeah, bottom line, Echo's ex-girlfriend betrays them and tries to kill Echo again. Big shock. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal! But of course, Senator Doll fails to kill Echo. Again, big shock. And then the senator gives a public speech about how the dollhouse isn't real and how he just made up the whole thing for publicity. And at this point, I honestly have absolutely no idea if the dollhouse is still controlling him or if he's just an idiot. Meanwhile, back at the dollhouse, the Prime Dollhouse that is, the scientist guy is getting tired of sharing the spotlight with himself, and so he murders his doll clone. I mean, Victor's fine, but still. And now, for some reason, former doll November is kidnapped by Echo's ex-girlfriend, and she is reprogrammed into a doll, making her former doll November. God, this show is a mess! Okay, let's get a move on here. This is taking way too long. Next episode, Echo steals some food to help a poor Hispanic woman, but only manages to get the woman arrested by some asshole cops. But Echo herself manages to get away when another imprint takes over and she manages to fight back. Later, Echo assumes the imprint of a nurse from her arsenal and goes to the hospital where the woman is being treated, and even manages to get a secret message to the woman outlining her plan to get her out of there. Then Echo goes home and is immediately attacked. And that's when we learn that she has now teamed up with FBI guy turned handler for some reason. When the hell did they team up? Why the hell did they team up? Who cares? Let's move on. Oh wait, no. Apparently FBI handler isn't actually working with Echo at all. He's planning to betray her to the dollhouse. Lovely. Why? Meanwhile, back at the prison break, Echo pulls a Dr. McCoy and injects the woman with a drug that will simulate death for 4 minutes, thus being able to sneak her out under the nose of the cops, because as we all know, cops are idiots and they buy it without question. At least until the drug wears off problematically early and the woman wakes up. It's a classic pawn farr scenario. / sneaking Chekhov out of the hospital in Star Trek 4. Take your pick. Meanwhile, back at the dollhouse, the scientist guy impresses everyone with his brand new invention. A remote wipe ray.
This will eliminate that problem. A remote wipe.
For fuck's sake, can we just stop pretending that this was ever a thing they couldn't do? Back with Echo at the prison break, she has to improvise in order to get out, switching back and forth between various personality imprints depending on the needs of the specific scenario. It's very sensate, except, you know, not good. But hey, we do get this great line when the FBI guy comes back to take care of the sheriff.
Why are you wasting your time on some border-hopping nobody?
I'm not. I'm wasting my time on you.
Damn, that's a good line. I guess Joss Whedon does have it in him. Occasionally. They're decades apart, but you do have your moments. Also, it turns out that FBI guy didn't actually betray Echo. He only pretended to betray Echo so that they could both get back into the dollhouse. Maybe. Or possibly he did actually betray her, I'm really not sure. And the episode ends with the director deciding not to wipe Echo so that they can see what this new unlimited form is capable of. I mean, yeah, don't wipe her, but also, that's your reasoning? That's so stupid. I mean, it's not like the wipe would have taken anyway, but really? The next episode opens with Dr. Vanderspiegel killing someone for some reason. Wait, is this still the same series? When did this become Resident Alien? Anyway, after that jarring opening scene, cut over to Echo, who's in a straitjacket for some reason. I'm really not entirely sure this is the same show. And I guess this is as good a place as any to insert that B-roll I have of ejecting the DVD to check if it's still the same goddamn show. Well, would you look at that? Apparently it is the same show. Huh. So apparently the people at the dollhouse have absolutely no idea what's wrong with Echo, and so they decided to imprint a copy of Dr. Freud into Victor for consultation. Oh, for fuck's sake! Why would you ever consult Dr. Freud, posthumously or not? And what do we learn from this consultation? Nothing! Fucking nothing! Well, we learned that Echo still has access to every imprint that she's ever been implanted with, and that she now has the ability to switch between them at will. Which, we knew that already. Well, this was a good use of a necromantic consultation. So Echo goes to her next engagement, only to find the dead body that Dr. Vanderspiegel killed, and she says that it's a message for her from Alpha. Oh, right, Alpha! I completely forgot that he's played by Dr. Vanderspiegel in this series. That suddenly makes a lot more sense. That one's on me. That one's on me. Cut me some slack here. This show is long and confusing. So anyway, they manage to track down Alpha and find him on a rooftop about to blow up a guy. And then he blows up the guy. Because these guys suck at their job. You had one job here. Don't let Alpha blow up a guy. You suck! So it turns out that one of Echo's former clients is now a target of Alpha. For some reason. And so the dollhouse offers Echo's former client protection, assuring him that Alpha will never be able to break into the dollhouse. Again. And that's not even counting the time that he broke out. And cut to... yeah, he's already broken in. And yes, Echo's former client is in fact Agent Koenig from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I have completely given up trying to figure out what the hell show I'm watching here. So Alpha takes Agent Koenig hostage, and now Victor is helping him for some reason. I guess Alpha imprinted Victor with an imprint that would help him? I guess? Was that shown? Did I miss it? Did I blink? Did I have a brief coma? It's entirely possible.
For months, you shared the same room. You never slept with her. You could have, but you didn't. If that's not love.
You could have raped her, but you didn't. That's love. What the actual fuck? Do I even need to unpack that? What the fuck, Joss Whedon? I somehow doubt it will take. After all, this is starting to sound more and more like a bad comic book plot. And hey, look at that! It is a bad comic book plot!
He's 10 times the man you are, and you're like 40 guys.
Huh. That's an oddly true statement. So, of course, it turns out that Alpha imprinted himself with FBI Guy's consciousness before killing him. So, I guess he's not technically dead. But also, the way they reveal that information is very dumb. Echo is literally in the process of beating Alpha to death, but then FBI Guy's personality reasserts himself as the dominant one, and he tells Echo to kill him in order to kill Alpha. Like, what? She was literally already doing it. And now she's not going to do it because she can't bring herself to kill FBI Guy. If FBI Guy had just kept his stupid mouth shut, he would have gotten what he wanted. But no! Then we wouldn't know Joss Whedon's brilliant twist. Also, FBI Guy's lifeless corpse is on life support, presumably just in case they ever get a chance to stick his own personality back into it. Despite that not being how this works, but on the other hand, I guess it could work that way. There's no rule against it, so why not? Sure. Yeah. So apparently FBI Guy's empty shell of a body is stable, at least physically. He's completely brain dead, of course, or brain absent. I'm not sure what the terminology is for this type of situation. Also, you remember how the director was having an affair with Doll Victor? Well, she still is. Or at least she was until he broke up with her. Because apparently, even in imprinted doll form, Victor still has vague memories of being in love with Sierra. So that's awkward. The next day, Victor's contract is up, and so he's released. Victor didn't have a contract! Who are they trying to fool? Well, me, I didn't notice that before. Victor is the former Russian agent who they brainwashed on account of he was getting too close to them, and so they made him into a doll without any existing contract because they just wanted to permanently get rid of their problem. Apparently, we've forgotten that in Season 2. And once again, I am the idiot who completely missed this. But, so, you remember last season how I said that Doll Victor was originally the Russian agent who was investigating the Dollhouse, and how the Dollhouse captured him and turned him into Doll Victor in order to get him out of the way and, you know, get revenge on him for that whole thing, and that he had no contract and he was turned against his will, 100% non-consensual conversion? Yet turns out I missed a bit of exposition where it turns out that actually Victor was in fact a doll from the start, who signed a contract like normal, and that the Russian agent was just an imprint that they put into his head in order to put the FBI guy onto the wrong trail. So, sorry. That's on me. But, in my defense, this show is very, very complicated. Stupidly complicated, in fact. So, cut me some slack here. I am fucking trying.
The script calls for hot and haunted. Does this girl look hot and haunted to you?